Alright, Sonic Prime. Now, look, I originally wasn't gonna make a video on Sonic Prime. I actually hadn't even started watching Sonic Prime until literally yesterday, but with the release of Season 3, and I heard a lot of people saying the show was over, I decided, well, this is probably the best time to watch it. So over the past day, I've binged all, I think, how many episodes is it? I can't math. I'm not even gonna try and bother. I think it was 23 episodes. I don't fucking know, and I frankly don't care. But yeah, I finally got around to watching Sonic Prime, all three seasons. And like I said, I wasn't originally going to make a video on this, but I decided to once I saw all the discourse and I heard some people's complaints. And I thought, I haven't uploaded in a while, and this is something that I do kind of want to give my opinion on. Anyone who follows me on Instagram would have seen that I did post to Instagram saying that I enjoyed the show. I enjoyed the show a decent bit, but I decided why not come out and actually give like a more in-depth review on the show. Now, this isn't scripted, as you can probably tell from the fact that I'm stammering like a fucking idiot, and it's not even really bullet pointed. I didn't really come into this with any sort of plan, but I don't really think I need one, because with a show like Sonic Prime, I just want to come here and I want to talk about it, one, in relation to other Sonic shows. I want to address some of the controversies, and then I also just want to give, I guess, my general thoughts on the show. I guess this is going to be like a short, almost like a short one-man podcast type of deal, I guess. I know I haven't really done something this off the cuff in a while now. But without further ado, let's start off with this. So I'm going to start off with just my general opinions on the show. Personally, I really, really enjoyed Sonic Prime. Was it perfect? No, it did have a decent amount of problems. I honestly, a lot of my criticisms of the show just kind of echo what everyone else said. I feel like a lot of the episodes were dragging out. It felt like a lot of the time they didn't know. It felt like they didn't really have a plan for how many episodes they would need to do, so they just kept finding reasons to drag the story out. A lot of the characterization, particularly, well, I say a lot of the characterization is really just Sonic's characterization, because Shadow's fine and everyone else is like alternate wacky versions of themselves. So, Sonic's characterization isn't great. And, some of the other plot lines I just wasn't really that interested in. I'll go more in depth with this, I guess, a little later on. But just to give my general thoughts, I enjoyed the show. Now, from this point onward, I am going to go into spoiler territory, because I have to talk about controversies and I have to talk about the canonicity and all that fucking bullshit. So if you still intend to watch the show yourself, which I do recommend, stop watching now. Because from this point onward, I'm going to be talking spoilers up the fucking wazoo. I've never said wazoo before in my life, and I'm never going to again. But yeah, spoilers from here on. So before I go into my own personal, well, I guess if we're going to talk about my own personal gripes, I'll sort of work that in with the controversies, because like I say, a lot of my critiques really echo what the major Sonic fan base has been saying. I do think people are getting a little bit worked up over this, but I mean, it's Sonic fans, what's new? But let's address, first off, let's just address the two biggest elephants in the room, I think it's fair to say. And that's the canonicity and the ending. So for those who haven't caught up yet, basically the ending, just to be clear, I'm just going to assume that anyone who's watching now has already watched the show, so I'm not going to be giving any recaps or anything. If you're watching this, I just assume you've watched the show. So if you're someone who's watching this who hasn't watched the show, who just wants to get a recap, this isn't the video for you. Anyway, so with the ending, a lot of people are mad at the ending, obviously, because of the cliffhanger, I guess, like quotes around that, because a lot of people thought like, oh, there was only 7 episodes in season 3 as opposed to the 8 episodes from seasons 1 and 2. So a lot of people thought maybe there was an episode scrapped, or maybe this was supposed to lead into a season 4. No, none of that. It's not leading into a season 4, and there wasn't another episode. Apparently the first 2 episodes were combined into one, which is why apparently the first episode was longer. I didn't notice that for the first episode of season 3. I don't know. I wasn't really paying attention to how long the episode was. But yeah, apparently the first episode's longer. Like I said, I wasn't paying attention to that. But so that's why there's one less episode. And apparently the cliffhanger was literally just supposed to represent Sonic going on his next adventure, is the quote that's been given. Which, I mean, if you're going to do that, maybe don't give the impression that whatever threat has come out of the sky has warped in, like, every single fucking threat in the whole rest of the show has. But hey, that's just me. I'm not a fucking professional writer. I'm just saying, maybe don't do that. But whatever. So yeah, there's no episode 8 for season 3. There's no season 4. Sonic Prime is done. Sonic Prime is finished. And now I want to talk about the other thing that's got a lot of people riled up, and that's the canonicity of the show. So Ian Flynn, who is essentially, I guess it's fair to say Ian Flynn is like the story director for Sonic now. He's like the lore master. Sorry, Cybershell. He's like the lore master for Sonic now, I guess. Lore master is such a dumb term. But yeah, he's come out and he said he was a consultant on this show. He didn't write it. Ian Flynn writes the games. Well, he wrote Frontiers anyway. And he writes the comics, but he did not write the show. He was just a consultant because, you know, he's the main story guy for Sonic. The lore master. I'm not going to keep calling him that because fucking Cybershell has just nailed that into my brain. But, and he has said that it was not his choice to make this show canon. And he essentially, he says basically the exact same thing I thought. And that's that the show is canon in the same way that Sonic 06 is. Like, it's, you know, it's moot. It basically doesn't exist. Like, it happened, but it didn't happen. Like, yes, Sonic experienced all of that, but literally only him and Shadow remember any of it. It's kind of like, it's obviously like it's Sonic 06, or to use another example that my families might understand, it's like the Persona Q games. Like, you know, no one remembers that they happened, but they did technically happen. It's like, okay, let's just call it what it is. It was a marketing ploy. It was just, oh, we're gonna say this is canon, so the people will go and they'll watch it. So yes, technically it is canon, but it really doesn't matter. And the way Ian Flynn literally said, like, if you enjoyed it, there you go, it's canon, and if you didn't, you can just safely ignore it. So I guess that's the official stance. A little disappointing. So yeah, that's all a little bit of a mess. But now that all of that fucking shit is out of the way, I'm gonna sort of get into my personal thoughts on the show, my own critiques, what I liked, what I didn't like. So yeah, and I'll sort of talk more about the controversies as this goes on, because like I say, I've said it multiple times now, a lot of my critiques really do echo what everyone else is saying. So let's start out with what I liked. So I thought the animation was really, really good. I mean, there were some points where the animation looks really, really weird. Pixel art aside, we're not talking about the fucking pixel art. And actually, while that's on my mind, I will say, Ian Flynn did say that the show takes place sometime after Sonic Advance, but that doesn't mean it takes place right after Sonic Advance. That could literally mean any time after Sonic Advance. So, whatever. But yeah, the pixel art aside, I really thought the art style and the animation looked really, really good. Like, there were a few times when it looked very sort of strange. Like, I don't know, there was points where the animation looked a bit off. But aside from that, I did really, really like how the show looked. I don't know if anyone else sort of got this, but whenever I looked at Sonic and the way you could kind of see his quills kind of, like the way the quills like are just a texture on the model, it kind of gave me vibes of the movie Sonic skin in Sonic Colors Ultimate. If anyone everyone knows what that looks like, and if you don't, good on you didn't play Sonic Colors Ultimate. But yeah, I thought that looked really, really interesting, and yeah, overall, I just really, really enjoyed the animation. The voice acting, I really, really liked the voice acting for the most part. I really, really liked Devin Mack as Sonic. I thought Devin Mack, like, I really like what he did. Cause he didn't just do like a typical Sonic voice. Like, it felt like he was trying to work in all of Sonic's major actors. So like, there was obviously a lot of Roger in there because this is supposed to be Roger's Sonic technically. It's kind of like how Jason Griffith tried to replicate Ryan Drummond in the early days of Sonic X. It's just that sort of thing. But he also had like a certain amount of Jason Griffith and Ryan Drummond in there, and I really like him. I really like Devin Mack as Sonic. I think he's really, really good. We have I am so sorry if I'm gonna butcher this name, Ashley Ball. I'm so sorry if I butchered that name. But as the voice of Tails, or I guess more so Nine, in this show. I thought she did a really good job as Tails. You could really tell that she was trying to sort of just do what Colleen's been doing since 2014. But even then, Colleen was kind of trying to continue doing what Kate Higgins was doing prior to that. So I think at this point, we just have a Tails voice down that we're going to stick with. I think at this point, because that's 3 Tails voices now that have kind of had that same general voice. Like, obviously, you can still tell that it's a different voice, but you know, you could really tell that she was trying to just do that typical Tails voice, and it was fine for what it was. It worked. Vincent Tong as Knuckles, or I guess, well, yeah, Knuckles, but also like, a few different a few of the different Eggmen, I guess. Or hold on, no. Hold on. So, sorry, I have the IMDb up. I probably should have read this more. So Vincent Tong voiced like some of the alternate versions of Knuckles, but the normal version of Knuckles was voiced by a guy called Adam Narada. What the fuck? I didn't even notice. I did notice that they had different voices, and I was going to bring that up, but I didn't realize they were actually voiced by different people. Alright, well, okay, we'll talk about the main cast first. So Adam Narada as Knuckles. I actually really liked his Knuckles voice. I do think it was a little deep at times. Like, we didn't get to hear very much of, like, just normal Knuckles, which is something I'll get into in a minute. But I thought generally the voice was pretty decent. That's really all I have to say on it. Like I said, we didn't really hear enough of it. So, but overall, I thought it was fine. Then we had Shannon Chan Kent as Amy and all of the different versions of Amy. Okay, so in this case, if we're just talking her as normal Amy, I wasn't the biggest fan. I thought, like, one of my friends was talking to me about the show a while back, and she told me that she was describing what the voice actors sounded like to me, because I asked what they sounded like, and she basically just told me that Amy's voice was just girl. Like, that was the only way she could really describe her voice, was just girl. I'm like, that is basically the kind of voices she gives to normal Amy. But when we look at, like, Rusty Rose and Black Rose and Thorn Rose, I thought she did a much better job with those characters. So she played the alternate versions of Amy well, but I felt like she wasn't trying as much with... Well, I don't want to say not trying. Like, that's a little harsh to say, but, like, I didn't think she did as good of a job on normal Amy. Like, to really put it into perspective, like, if Sega was to recast tomorrow and she was to replace Cindy Robinson, I would honestly probably prefer Cindy Robinson. And anyone who knows me knows I'm not the biggest fan of Cindy Robinson's Amy voice. So, just to put it into perspective, I think I prefer Cindy Robinson over her normal Amy voice. I can't stress enough, her normal Amy voice, not the other ones. Anyway, that was a fucking mess. Moving on from that. Then we have Kazumi Evans as Rouge and all the alternate versions of Rouge. I thought she did a decent job with Rouge. Well, yeah, there's really not much to say. It's just a typical Rouge voice, I guess. Like, it's just... Like, Rouge... I don't mean to say again, like, it's basically just woman. But that is basically what Rouge is. Like, that's Rouge's whole vibe is... It's just a normal woman's voice. So I guess I can't really get too mad at that. I'm not even mad at it at all. I thought, okay, I'm just going to stop now because this is... I'm digging myself into a hole with this one. But, like, the point is, I thought she did a decent job with Rouge. And all the alternate versions of Rouge. And, of course, we have to talk about Brian Drummond as Eggman, and also he played, like, one of the different versions of Eggman. I don't know. Point is, I like the general main cast, and I like the voice acting in general. The only real issue that I had was, like I say, with Amy, I've already forgotten her name. I've closed the IMDb page, sorry. But I thought she didn't, like I said, I didn't think she did a great job with normal Amy, but I thought she was really good for the alternate versions. But, yeah, no, the animation and the voice acting's out of the way. I want to talk a little bit about the actual general show itself. Now, I heard a lot of people complain about that they wish that the normal versions of the characters were actually in the show more, and I do agree with that to an extent. Because, like, on one hand, it would have been so easy for them to just have all of the normal versions of the characters just follow them into the Shatterverse. Like, that would have been so easy for them to do, and you could have done the whole, wow, you're me thing, which they did a few times on the show, like, when the alternate versions met each other, and it was like, yeah, whatever, but like, it would have got so annoying, because this show already repeats a lot of gags over and over again, and that would have gotten really annoying really fast. But I do kind of wish they had more build-up to the actual thing happening, because even though we've known these characters for, in some cases, 30 years, like, with a show like this, like, even though it's supposed to be the same versions of the characters that we've known since Sonic 1, 2, CD... 3, Adventure 2, whenever the fuck they were introduced, you know what I mean? Like, they're all introduced in different games. But even though it's supposed to be those same characters, like, character consistency in Sonic games just doesn't exist. And that's why I'm kind of surprised that a lot of people are saying, oh, it can't be canon because the characters aren't consistent. It's like, how can you get mad at character inconsistency when, like, fucking Sonic Adventure, Sonic Colors, and Sonic Frontiers are all supposed to be fucking canon at the same time, and they all have completely different, like, the characters are all written completely differently in those games. Like, I don't really think you can talk about character consistency in this franchise. I feel like that's kind of gone long out the window at this point. But my point is, like, I really wish we had got a chance to know the prime versions of these characters. Because, like, obviously, like I say, they do expect us to just know Knuckles, Tails, Amy, Rouge, and Big at this point. And, like, that's fair, but it's... With how different this universe is, not this universe, the show's version of Sonic is, I would have liked to get to know those versions of the characters a little bit more. But then again, I also... When I saw the alternate versions of the characters, I did still care because I have known these characters for so long. So who knows? Maybe I'm just being over analytical. That happens with me a lot. But generally, I do wish the characters were in the show more, outside of just flashbacks in the start of the show. Like, honestly, I would have given a whole episode almost, like, or even 2 episodes just to that, because I feel like it's important to establish that before you actually go in and try and do this whole thing. Now, I want to talk now about what I thought of the alternate versions of the characters. Now, I don't really have that much to say about all of them. The alternate versions of Rouge, for example, like, none of them really felt all that interesting. Like, the alternate versions of Rouge kind of felt like they were just there. And, like, honestly, that's kind of a point I want to talk about, is, like, why is Rouge even in this story? Like, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me, because, like, the whole thing is it's supposed to be Sonic's main friend group. And, like, when the hell has Rouge ever been, like, part of that? Like, when it comes to, like, Sonic's main, like, friend group, I guess, like, you've got Tails and Knuckles, who are always there, and then Amy at this point has just kind of become part of, like, you know, you have the ones that are always there, like, so you had Sonic, Tails, and Knuckles, and then, like I say, Amy has just kind of inserted herself into, like, the role of always there at this point as well. But it's like, Rouge and Big really feel like outliers, especially Rouge, because, like, Big at least has the whole thing that she's friends with Amy, like, that's been made clear. Let me try that again. Rouge is, with Big, it's like he's very clearly friends with Amy, with him, not since fucking Heroes. But with Rouge, like, she always seemed so, like, distant from the rest of the cast. Like, she was always more, like, around Shadow and Omega, and I guess she has the thing with Knuckles, but even then it was always more of a rivalry kind of type of thing, like a sort of, like, I obviously I don't want to say, like, will they, won't they, but, like, also, yeah, at the same time, like, you know, what I'm trying to say is, it feels weird to have Rouge in this role, and in all the flashbacks to him having, like, fun with his friends, Rouge is in there, and it's like, that doesn't feel right, you know what I mean? Like, Rouge is a thief. Like, she has good intentions, but she's still a criminal. Like, think like Catwoman or Black Cat type of thing, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, that just felt really off to me, and it's like, if you wanted to have more characters, like, why not just use, like, Big is a fair enough one to use, but, like, why not use someone like Cream? Like, where the fuck has Cream been? Like, I know she was in Sonic Dream Team, but I haven't played Sonic Dream Team because I refuse to get an Apple Arcade subscription. So, like, you know what I mean? Like, Cream hasn't been used very much, like, pretty much since Sonic X ended. So, like, I don't know, use her? Like, you know, like, Rouge is just such a weird choice to me. But anyway, back to the topic at hand. I was trying to talk about the alternate versions of the characters. Like I say, didn't have that much to say about the alternate versions of Rouge. Okay, well, I'll talk about the main alternate versions in a minute. So I'll talk about, like, 9 and... Well, pretty much just 9. In a minute. But, so, okay, talking about the alternate version of Tails. Minji was funny. Like, just seeing Tails act like a normal dog was kind of funny at first, I guess. Like, but then, like, halfway through, suddenly he started being smart, even though the whole thing is, oh, it's Tails, but he's dumb. But then suddenly he is smart, like, halfway through, and it's like, what? Like, what happened there? Like, that came completely the fuck out of nowhere. And then you had, what the fuck was the other version called? Seals? Is that what the pirate one was called? He was fine. It was just Tails as a pirate. Like, there's really not much to say on him. Like, he was just Tails, but pirate. And then with the alternate versions of Knuckles, I actually quite liked the New York version of Knuckles. I don't know why he had a Brooklyn accent, but I mean, I'm not mad at it. Like, at this point, I feel like Knuckles has had a lot of different accents, so it's like, Brooklyn is probably the least surprising thing ever. But, like, it's just such a weird, like, touch, you know what I mean? And then, so I liked him a decent bit. He just felt like Knuckles, essentially. Then you had the caveman version of Knuckles, I don't remember his name, who was basically just Sticks. Like, he was basically just Sticks from Sonic Boom, but, like, Knuckles, which was weird. Like, I don't really know how else to describe it. It was just Sticks in Knuckles' body, essentially. Like the whole conspiracy there, saying, like, the trees are talking to me thing. That was whatever. And then you had, what was his name? Dread, the pirate version of Knuckles. He's probably the most prominent version of Knuckles in the show, because he has, like, the most thing. I did not like Dread at all. I thought Dread was very inconsistently written, because, like, at first he's like a pirate who's given up on everything, and then Sonic convinces him to go after the fucking, like, the Devil's Lighthouse, whatever the fuck they called the shard. But then, all of a sudden, he randomly, like, double crosses Sonic, and, like, makes the whole crew think that Sonic's abandoning them, and they believe him, even though Sonic very blatantly came back. So he says, like, oh, Sonic's betrayed us, he's going to take the thing for himself. But then he comes back, and, like, he comes back showing that he hasn't abandoned them. But then they still believe what Dread said. And it's like, what? Like, he's here. Like, what do you mean? What? Like, that didn't make any sense to me. And, like, why did Dread do that? Like, what was his motivation for doing that? I mean, like, he just was always flip-flopping between whether or not he was a good guy or a bad guy. Like, whenever they went to save, like, the pirate versions of Big, Tails, and Rouge, like, whenever they all teamed up with the Egg Council, which we'll get to the Egg Council in a minute, but, you know, whenever they went to do that, and they said, here, Dread, are you coming? And he says, oh, there's nothing there for me if there's no treasure. But then, once they go to the Grim, suddenly he's fighting alongside them like nothing ever happened. And it's like, what happened to if there's no treasure? There's nothing there for me. Like, there was no scene of him saying, like, I'll fight with you, or something like that. It came out of, like, what? Like, it just came my point with him is he's inconsistent. That's really my biggest problem with him, is that he's inconsistent. So, I didn't like him very much. The alternate versions of Big, there's really not much to say about it. They're all basically just Big. Like, it's just Big. Like, how do you change Big? He's Big. Like, they're all the same. I really don't know what else to say about him. And then we get to the alternate versions of Amy, who I think are easily the most interesting ones. And we'll start with Black Rose, because she's probably the least interesting one. I liked her. Like, she was funny at times. Like, it just feels like, sometimes it felt like Amy doing a pirate cosplay, which I thought was funny. But honestly, she's honestly more interesting, like, once you pair her up with the other versions of Amy. So, like, let's say Thornrose. Thornrose was the one that we saw the leak of prior to the show actually came out, when the concept art leaked. She was cool. Like, I liked that world kind of, like, the whole show has the environmentalist message, which is something that Sonic games haven't had in a very long time. But, like, that world in particular pushes, you know, it's not just about, you know, oh, machinery bad, plants good. That world really pushed that, like, there is such thing as too far in the opposite direction. And it's like, that's something that they've never tackled before. And I was like, that's very interesting. And it's really cool that they acknowledged, like, the other side of it. Like, I thought that was really interesting. I really liked Thornrose. And then, yeah, my favorite of all the other versions of Amy was Rusty Rhodes. Yeah, big surprise. Cahill likes the fucking robot character. But it's funny because, like, when she first showed up, I didn't like her at all, because I was like, okay, like, because my first thought when I saw New York was, like, this is clearly supposed to be Sonic's world if Sonic never existed. That's what I thought New York was supposed to be at first. And it's clear to me now that I've finished the show that that's not what it is. But my first thought was like, why did Amy, of all people, join up with Eggman? Like, I was like, I just wanted to know more about Rusty, and, like, what her whole thing was. Because, like, and also, there's a little bit of an inconsistency with her, because when Sonic first sees her, he says, wait, you're a robot? And she says, negative, I am, what the fuck, like, cybernetically enhanced? So it's like, okay, she's a cyborg, so she's just been cybernetically enhanced. But then, like, in a later episode, when the pirates tell her that Sonic is the captain of the ship, she says, I wish I was programmed to laugh. And it's like, are you a robot or not? Like, it's like, you cannot do both. Like, if you're a person who is cybernetically enhanced, how can you be programmed to laugh? You're not, like, are you a robot or are you a cybernetically enhanced person? I'm trying so hard. It's so easy just to say the word human, but she's not a human, she's a hedgehog. But, like, you get the point. Like, be consistent, because she says very clearly that she's just cybernetically enhanced, but then she just acts, talks, and all that like a robot. And it's like, make up your mind. You know what I mean? But aside from that, I did really, really like her. I just really wish they explored her arc more. Again, big surprise. Cal wants to know more about the robot character. But just like insert a picture of Aegis here and like maybe Labras as well. Mattis, why not? But fucking just a little bit of a treat for the Persona fans watching. But yeah, I liked her a lot. I really liked the bond that the three Amy characters had by the end. Like, that was really nice to see. I thought that was really, really cool. Like, I know some people are like with Black Rose becoming the captain of the ship, I know some fucking jackass is gonna come and go and be like, oh, it's the feminist agenda, and it's like, dude, shut the fuck up. You want to see a feminist agenda? Go look at what's happening with Star Wars. And that is the last thing I'm going to say about Star Wars. If you want to know what my opinions on the whole Star Wars thing, if you're watching this like a few years after it comes out, you can probably go check my Instagram and find out my opinion on that. But whatever, I am not opening that can of worms. But point is, I know some people are going to get mad at it. I really liked it. Amy's one of my favorite Sonic characters, so I just liked saying that. I thought that was cool. Now, before I talk about the Chaos Council, I want to talk about Shadow first. I love Shadow on this. Now, Shadow, like, I've been very open and I've been very outspoken about the fact that I don't like how Shadow's been written in like the more recent games, because he's just like pretty much since I want to say since Generations, like, Shadow has been written so badly. Like, the last game I think to really get Shadow right was either 06 or Black Knight, depending on like whether or not you want to count Lancelot. Like, he wasn't too bad in Forces, I guess, but it's also Sonic Forces, so like, it's, you know, like, you can only polish a turd so much. But my point is that in this show, Shadow felt like Shadow to me again. And I forgot to talk about Shadow's voice actor. I'm sorry, I have to close the IMDb page, and I'm not opening it again. But the dude who voiced Shadow did a really, really good job. Like, if this dude was the new voice of Shadow, I would be happy. In fact, can we get a campaign to get this guy to be the new voice of Shadow? Because I'm sorry, I do not like Kirk Thornton's voice for Shadow. Kirk Thornton's great. Like, he's a good voice actor, but he's not a good Shadow. He just isn't. Like, oh my god. Like, I don't mean to throw any hate Kirk Thornton's way, but he just doesn't do Shadow very well. Like, there's just no other way to say it. And this dude in this show absolutely nailed it. But moving on, there's not really all that much to say about Shadow. He's just Shadow, but actually written well. That's really it. So now on to the egg. I keep wanting to say the Egg Council. The Chaos Council. I did not like the Chaos Council. Now, look, I like the idea of, like, a group of 5 Eggmen. So you have normal in quotes, Eggman. Then you have baby Eggman. You have teenage Eggman. You had midlife crisis, maybe possibly homosexual Eggman, which I feel like that's just normal Eggman, but whatever. And then you have old Eggman. Like, I like the idea, but one, it got very old very quickly, especially the baby. That got old quickly. And also, I'm sorry, I just don't like their designs. Like, they stuck out like a sore thumb. Like, all the other Sonic characters, even the redesigned ones, looked really, really good. Like, they looked really, really good, and they looked like they belonged in the Sonic universe. Like, I don't know, just the Chaos Council with their designs, I don't know what it is, but something about their designs just gave me major, like, Despicable Me vibes. And it, like, not to say there's anything wrong with Despicable Me. I actually really like the first Despicable Me movie. All the other ones can go fuck themselves, but that's not the point. But, like, it just, they didn't feel like they fit in, like, the Sonic universe, if that makes sense. They felt like stylistically they didn't fit in. And I was like, I I just didn't gel with that very well. I just didn't think that was, I don't know. I don't know, because it was like, even when it was like, Mr. Dr. Eggman, I think was supposed to be like the main one. He was like the normal Eggman, like I say. And he, I don't know, even he looked, he was the weird, actually, he was the weirdest looking one. I don't even know how they managed to make the one that's supposed to be the stand-in for normal Eggman look the weirdest, but they did. And it's like, yeah. But anyway, now let's get on to the final character I need to talk about, and probably, I think it's fair to say the most divisive character, and that's Nine. Now, I don't really have a problem with Nine as a character. I actually really like Nine as a character. I like the concept behind him of like what would have happened to Tails if Sonic had never been in his life. You know what I mean? I think that's such an interesting road to go down. But like, I don't know. I think because people, like, I saw Sam Procrastinator and he said he got really annoyed with how selfish Nine was. And it's like, well, yeah, but it's like the dude's grown up in a world. Well, not really. Well, yeah, no, in a world where it's like friends and like being self, it doesn't get you anywhere. You know what I mean? Like, it's like when you're raised in a certain way, or when you grow up living in a certain way, like it's going to affect. Like you're shaped by the way. You're shaped by the environment you grow up in, and I think that really showed with Nine in this show. Like, honestly, my biggest problems with Nine honestly aren't even really him. It's more Sonic and the way Sonic's written. Because Sonic in this show is a complete and utter fucking dumbass. Like, he's so dumb. Like, he's so dumb. Like, for one, like, it takes him way too long to catch on to the whole, like, oh, these are alternate versions of my friends thing, even though supposedly this is supposed to be canon. And if the cliffhanger at the end is supposed to be fucking Sonic's next adventure, I think that's first to say that it's supposed to happen currently in the timeline. And then that would mean that like Secret Rings and Black Knight have already happened. And like, you think he'd be used to this by now? Okay, I'm more joking on that last point. Like I said earlier, like you can't really expect consistency here. But like, I'm not expecting consistency. I'm more just expecting good writing. And like, Sonic is not written well. He's just an idiot. Like, this is the character that we're supposed to be following, and half the time I want to punch him in the face because he's a fucking idiot. Like, the way he just like, even like 3 fucking seasons in, he's still like, I felt like he couldn't. I feel like in his head he couldn't catch on to the fact that Nine is not Tails. It's like, dude, fucking come on, bro. But yeah, like I said, I like Nine as a character. I liked how he was handled. I honestly, I think my biggest problem with him was more so Sonic. And like I say, my problem with Sonic is more so the writing, not the. It's not that I hate this version of Sonic overall. Like I say, I love the voice actor, Devin Mack. Love Devin Mack. This isn't his fault. This is the writer's fault. And Sonic was not written very well here. It just wasn't. Like, there's no other way around it. Now, before I go in, because I want to also compare it to like some other Sonic shows, but before I go into that, I want to talk about like something that I thought was a missed opportunity. So, since this show is supposed to be canon, right? If we're going by that, and yes, I know what I said earlier, that was a marketing ploy, and I do 100% believe it was a marketing ploy. But if you're gonna market something as canon, I feel like they missed an opportunity to do something interesting here. So they could have, because the comics are also confirmed to be canon now, and it's like, why not throw in Tangle and Whisper? Like, we've been waiting to see these characters outside of the comics or something. Yes, I know they're in the mobile games, but I don't fucking care about that. Like, we've been waiting to see these characters outside of the comics for a long time. And yeah, I know there's that one, line in Frontiers where if you stand in, a certain place for long enough, Sonic will say, whoa, Tangle would love this place. And, that's cool and all. But it's like, if you really want to hammer home that not only is the show canon, but also the comics are canon, throw in Tangle and Whisper. Like, they don't even have to play a massive role. Like, you could have just had them there in the background, like, during the early episodes or something. Like, I don't know. This isn't really that big of a complaint. It's just sort of something I saw as a missed opportunity, and I just wanted to throw it out there. Point is, I want to see Tangle and Whisper in something that's not the comics. I want to see them in the games. I want to see them in the shows. I want to see them in something. Just give us more Tangle and Whisper, and let Ian Flynn write them how he fucking wants. You know what I'm talking about. But okay, on to the last thing that I want to talk about is I kind of want to talk about where I want to basically just give my opinion on how I feel this show ranks, like, in comparison to the other Sonic shows, because I've watched most of the Sonic cartoons. I know I've watched at least a little bit of all of them, and like, because I've watched all of Sonic Boom, I've watched all of Sonic SatAM, I've watched almost all of Sonic X. I couldn't get through season 3 of Sonic X, Jesus Christ. But my brother did get through it, and he told me it was fucking terrible, so I'm just not even gonna bother trying to get through the rest of that. But and I watched a little bit of Underground and a little bit of, well, enough of of Adventures to get the point. Because Adventures is just Looney Tunes but with Sonic, essentially. Or Tom and Jerry but with Sonic. Overall, because here's the thing. For me, when it comes to Sonic cartoons, the gold standard for me is SatAM and Sonic X, because they both did something that I feel like Sonic Prime sort of failed to do. Is they both took what they had from the games at the time and made something interesting with it. So, for instance, SatAM had the whole environmentalist thing. It had the whole, like, man versus machine aspect to it, and it used that to its advantage, and it made this really, really good show that had a good environmentalist message, but also just told a really, really good story. And that was really, really interesting to me. Plus, we got a lot of great characters out of it, like Sally Acorn, fucking Bunny Rabbit, Antoine, all those characters. We got the whole Archie series spun off from that. Like, we got a lot out of that. But then also with Sonic X basically took something from Sonic Adventure 1 where it's like Sonic is suddenly around it's just suddenly around people, like people-ass people, like, you know, basically what happened with Mario and Mario Odyssey. It's like, why is he around people? Like, what's happening? And Sonic X Season 1 tried to explain that, and I thought it did it in a really, really interesting way. And then Season 2, like, went in and it, like, adapted the adventure games, you know, and it also adapted Sonic Battle for some fucking reason. And, you know, it tried, like, you know, to do that, you know, to varying degrees of success. I thought the SA2 adaptation was less than stellar. But then again, SA2 is one of my favorite games of all time, so maybe I'm biased. But, you know, my point is, those two shows are like the gold standard for me. And this show isn't quite there. Like, I acknowledge that, obviously I'm acknowledging that this show has flaws, but I also do want to acknowledge that Sonic X absolutely has flaws up its fucking ass. Like, I literally only think about just over half of that show is actually good. But, like, Sonic X Season 1, I think, is really good, and then I think the first half of Season 2 is pretty good, and then the whole, from, like, the second half of Season 2 onwards is fucking dog shit, except the Sonic Battle Arc, that was fine. But my point is, I don't think it quite reaches the heights of SatAM and X. If I had to compare it to a show, I'd probably say it's probably along the lines of Sonic Boom for me. So I don't know if I like it more than Boom or if I don't like it as much as Boom. It probably just really depends on what mood I'm in, because if I'm looking at, like, if I'm looking at this objectively, and, like, if you know me, you know I don't like to look at things objectively, because I don't think there's a way to look at media objectively. But if I tried to put on my dickhead YouTube critic hat and say, oh, which one's objectively better, I probably would say Sonic Boom, because Sonic Boom is just a really good comedy show that knows what it is, where Sonic Prime is trying to be an action show, you know, and it's obviously supposed to appeal to a very young kid, but it also has that darker aspect. I think really what annoyed me about this show is it gave me so many, like, SatAM vibes, like, especially with New York, it gave me the major SatAM vibes. It had the environmentalist thing, it had, like, the darker side of it, but also being aimed towards kids, but it just didn't quite live up to that. So I think if I had to be objective, again, I don't like doing this, but I would say Boom is better, but overall, I think for me, I do enjoy Prime just that little bit more for what it does try and do. I do appreciate the show for what it does. But anyway, that's the end of this. Jesus Christ, nearly 40-minute fucking rambly ass one man podcast ass discussion on Sonic Prime. So, you know, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like. Leave a comment in the comment section below. I guess just letting me know what you thought of the show. And let me know if you'd like to see more, like, just off the hook, unscripted stuff like this in the future. Because I don't know, I enjoyed making this. And I guess that's it. So, yeah.